going on, everyone? Casey here, Virginia Game Day, checking in with another episode of the Virginia Game Day podcast. Today we got a real exciting episode. Ahmad Hawkins, BallHawk, as you know him, the BallHawk podcast. He's an in-game analyst at the stadium, big member of UVA's media team and the community. He joined us to talk about the upcoming game against Syracuse and just talk a little bit about the season so far. So that'll be at the end of the show. Before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the game Dolo by myself, and we'll also go through all the lines for week 4. It's a real exciting week of football in the ACC. Lots of good games, so we'll definitely get to that. First, we're going to Syracuse. It's something that Virginia doesn't normally do. The last time Virginia went to Syracuse was in 2005, and it was a win. So that's a good sign. Since then, a lot has happened. They're no longer in the Big East. They're in our conference, the Carrier Dome, which it was known as and will be forever known as in my mind. I'm a guy from New York. Anyone who's followed college sports, it'll always be the Carrier Dome. But now it is the JMA Wireless Dome. Don't expect many people to actually call it that, but that's one other thing that's changed. So back then, back in 2005, the quarterback on that team who last beat Syracuse on the road was none other than Marquise Higgins, our wide receivers coach. And it's definitely going to be an interesting game. It's a Friday night game on ESPN, prime time. The Who's are big underdogs, so for all the betting crowd out there, maybe throwing a bet. UVA's getting 9 points. That's cool. And yeah, it's a long way. Syracuse is up there, man. It's not like New York City. It's like 4 hours above New York City. Like I mentioned, I'm from New York. I was raised in upstate New York, and I've been to a lot of Syracuse games. My brother currently lives in Syracuse. I got a lot of friends who went to Syracuse, so it's a good week for me. I'm going to have a lot of friendly wagers going on the side here. The current setup: Virginia's 2-1, Syracuse is 3-0. Syracuse has had a good defense for a while, and then this year they brought in Dr. Bob, Robert, and I, former UVA offensive coordinator, and they've gotten the offense on track. They have a running back in Sean Tucker, who's one of the best in the nation. Got a Heisman campaign going for himself right now, and a quarterback, Garrett Schrader, who used to be at Mississippi State. So we have Keaton Thompson, quarterback, used to be at Mississippi State for us, and Garrett Schrader, quarterback, used to be at Mississippi State for the Orange. Only one of them is still currently playing quarterback, but pretty interesting nonetheless. Syracuse started off their season with an ACC win. They've already beaten Louisville, and to kind of show how good their defense is, they held Malik Cunningham to just 7 points. And since then, Malik's had some pretty good games, done a lot on the ground, and the Orange held him in check. After the week 1, Syracuse went to play at UConn, former Big East rival of the Orange, and they blew them out 48-14. UConn, not a great team, of course, but holding anyone to 14 points on their home field is something. And then last week, of course, they beat Purdue at home. That was a wild game. I'm not sure if y'all saw the highlights, but basically all the points were scored in the fourth quarter. And Virginia, going into the fourth quarter, it was 10-9 Syracuse. Ended up being 32-29 Syracuse. So within the last minute, there was Purdue went up with a touchdown, and then Syracuse was able to score with just a couple seconds left on the clock. One of those games where there's 99.9% chance Purdue's going to win, and then it dips all the way down because of some crazy play. So this is no joke for UVA. It's going to be a good test, and I think it's going to be a game where maybe UVA's passing offense starts clicking, because if you look at the numbers, Purdue was able to put big time passing numbers up against the Orange, and it was in the same place. It was at the Dome. So yeah, Aiden O'Connell from Purdue put up over 400 yards passing. Didn't give up a lot on the ground. Syracuse, they only gave up 61 yards or something, less than 3 yards per carry. So it could be a perfect scenario where Brennan Armstrong and all of our receivers kind of get going through the air. Virginia is currently second to last in offense in the ACC, averaging 17.7 points per game, and Syracuse is fourth, averaging 37 points per game. So again, that'll be Friday night at 7 o'clock. before the season, I predicted it as a Virginia win, and I still feel that way. Getting our boys on the turf, I think it's a good chance for an explosion. And of course, we have the extra, bulletin board material of facing our old offensive coordinator, facing our old quarterbacks coach, being our first ACC game. It's our ACC opener, so there's a lot on the line for UVA, and it just they've been humbled the last couple of weeks offensively. They were held to 3 points against Illinois, had to escape last week at the last second against ODU. It just seems like we're overdue for an offensive explosion through the air. I think it's going to happen. So let's uh let's cross our fingers. And we'll hear more about this with BallHawk a little bit later. But first, let's go through all the lines for week 4 in the ACC. It's a great week of football, starting with Thursday night matchup, which is you'll probably be hearing this on Thursday morning. So tonight, West Virginia at Virginia Tech, a Big East battle from back in the day. Two teams that kind of have a similar makeup, right? Gritty, small town, blue collar, lunch pail type teams. Their college football team is everything in their locations, and it's a real rivalry. They call it what do they call it? The winner of the game receives the Black Diamond Trophy. So sweet. Uh, it was introduced in 1997 and meant to symbolize the Appalachian region's rich coal heritage. The phrase "Black Diamond" is often used as a term for coal. So sweet, man. I'm psyched for that game. The West Virginia won last year. Before that, Virginia Tech won in 2017. Those are the only two games since playing every year back in mid 2000s. That's when that stopped. So between let's see, these teams are playing every year for years and years and years. 81, 82, 83, 84, like back and forth, back and forth. So definitely make sure you tune in for that. 7:30 ESPN. West Virginia going on the road, 2-point favorites. So West Virginia -2 at Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium, expected to be rocking, of course. Then Friday night we get another big ACC matchup, of course. Our Wahoos going up to upstate New York, Syracuse -9, 7 p.m. ESPN. So y'all, Thursday and Friday night ACC games on ESPN, prime time, the big channel. And then Saturday, number 5, Clemson, number 21, Wake Forest, battle of the unbeatens within the conference. Certainly our biggest ACC football game, interconference game of the year so far. Clemson -7 on the road. Sam Hartman's back. DJU started to get it going last week in the second half. So this is going to be a big test for Clemson, right? Wake Forest is no joke, and Clemson hasn't really played anyone yet, so it'll be their first real big test, and it'll kind of give them a gauge on where they are. All right. Also, Rhode Island at Pitt. No line on that one. Rhode Island is an FCS school. Duke heading to Kansas, heading to Lawrence. Kansas is a 7-point favorite. Duke, of course, hasn't lost yet, but they have picked up wins against a Big Ten team in Northwestern and also an American team in Temple. So Kansas is playing well. Don't forget they beat Texas last year. They've already beat West Virginia. They've already beat Houston. So this is a team that's on the rise. They got Les Miles out of there, and they are, climbing up. Lance Leopold is the coach there now. Moving on, another former Big East matchup, a former AAC matchup. South Florida at Louisville. Louisville -14.5. That game will be on your ESPN app. 3:30 p.m. on ACC Network. Middle Tennessee at number 25 Miami. Miami gave Texas A&M a good game last week. Only lost by 1 score. Miami is -25 in that game. Also at 3:30 on ABC, a classic matchup: Notre Dame and UNC. UNC -1.5, so basically a pick 'em there. Notre Dame really struggling. They finally picked up their first win of the season last week against Cal. Anytime you have a Notre Dame North Carolina game, you're definitely gonna want to tune in, especially going up again in that 3:30 time slot, going up against Middle Tennessee and Miami. It's no brainer. Georgia Tech at UCF. Georgia Tech 1-2. They got their doors blown off last week. Big underdogs here. Big underdogs against UCF. I'm not against taking the points here, but UCF minus 20.5. So I'm not against taking the points at Georgia Tech, but I don't think they are. I don't see them winning outright. That's for sure. All right. Now we're in the nighttime slot. UConn. We're talking about them earlier. UConn at NC State. NC State ranked 12th in the country. UConn, not a great team. Just got shut out 59-0 at Michigan. They are 38.5-point underdogs. That's a tough one. I have to look into that. I don't know if NC State's the team that's going to cover 38 against another FBS school. But can UConn actually score? What I'm gonna have to think about. And then wrapping it up in the 8 p.m. ACC network spot, which we get every week. Boston College at Florida State. Florida State, not sure what's going on with their quarterback room there. Jordan Travis got hurt last week, was replaced. Tate Rodemaker. At the time of this podcast, I'm not sure. I think the status is still up in the air for who's going to start, but Boston College at Florida State. Florida State minus 17.5. Don't forget, Florida State hasn't lost yet, so this would be a big, big game for them. Boston College, on the other hand, just got their first win last week against an FCS opponent, Maine. Their offense hasn't been where we expected it. Phil Dracovic, big arm, lots of talent, but they haven't been protecting him, and it's been a little bit of a slow start. In his first two games against Rutgers and Virginia Tech, threw 3 picks and was sacked 9 times. And then even last week against Maine, he was still sacked 3 times. So they got to protect him better. So that does it for week 4 in the ACC. I appreciate you guys listening. As always, if you're listening right now, leave a review. Like, just hit the 5-star button or whatever star button. If you're on Spotify, do the same thing. I appreciate it. It always helps us out. So now we'll get to the interview with BallHawk. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you enjoy the interview. All right, so we got BallHawk was nice enough to come on and join us today. Hawk, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. No complaining on this side. How you doing?
Good. We got a little short week, right? Short week, and it's in the dome. So you played a lot of arena football. Does the approach change when you're playing inside the dome?
Yeah, it's louder. The volume intensifies, so it makes it difficult when you're on offense to kind of get the checks, and communication is definitely different. So hand signals are used, and everybody has to be locked in. So it definitely plays a role.
Yeah, they haven't played. UVA hasn't played at the dome since the Al Gro era, but they're supposed to. They're going to go there, kind of get acquainted with it, and play on Friday night.
Yeah, you try to simulate it the best you can during practice. I mean, we have the George Wells indoor practice facility, and I'm pretty sure they was playing all noise and music. I mean, they do a good job of always playing music during practice to simulate distractions and things of that nature. But, as a player, it's still a little different once it's packed with stands are packed with fans,
Of course.
That game mode. So, it's still going. It's going to take them a couple of series to acclimate.
I'm from New York originally, upstate New York, and I've been to the dome a few times. And when the teams are good, it's definitely a home field advantage. They pack it out when the teams are good, and they have a good team this year.
Yeah, I looked at their attendance. They've been getting like 35K, so I don't know how that translates inside that dome. Would that be enough to make it loud? But at the end of the day, man, you're on the road.
Right.
It's you against the world type of mentality, so you got to be ready.
So going into the season, of course, everyone thought we'd have the offense from last year, at least performance-wise, stats-wise. This year, so far, they're towards the bottom of the league, having a tough time scoring. You're an X's and O's guy. What are some differences between the air raid that they were using under Dr. Bob, who we'll see this on Friday night, and the new offense that Des Kitchens and Tony Elliott brought in?
So from the quarterback standpoint, the improvisation opportunities are limited compared to the air raid, where It allows you to get outside the pocket. It allows receivers to kind of have like read routes depending on coverage, where this is more precise post-style offense. It requires you to be in the right spot at the right time. You may not be able to do as much dancing when you're running your routes. So that's been to me that's been the biggest adjustment that those guys had to make. Because they were so explosive last year of just being able to go for a line, being able to work the route, and with a receiver stemming and giving you a little bit at the top of the route. Where this one is all about timing, and with a lot of moving parts in the offensive line, like it's very important now for guys to just get to spots. And some of our receivers may feel like they've been asked to be robotic, but it's all about the moving parts and everybody being on the same board. So that's what I've seen the most, man. But they've gotten better as the games have been on, and that's what you want. You saw last game, we finally hit Wicks on the vertical route, going towards the hill on the right side. Late in the game, we hit Lavelle Davis on a deep post.
Mm-hmm. Keaton had a big catch.
Yeah, you saw Brendan kind of climb the pocket, kind of step up. So it's requiring him to go forward more than getting out the pocket. Last year, he would go side to side, make big throws. This year, it's like being a pro. You got to climb the pocket, meaning go forward, and then step into your throw. So that's been my biggest difference to me.
So it could help Brandon at the next level, having to being in this kind of offense.
Yeah, and I think any young quarterback coming out of college, when you're coming out of the air raid, they want to see how you're performing because they don't consider air raid as being structured.
Yeah.
It's a negative. It's a negative. So it's like, yeah, you're putting up all these yards and points, but they view it as backyard football. So again, that's the difference that Brennan has to adjust to. Not saying he can't do it and he's not capable of doing it, but you're asking a lot from a guy who was averaging over 400 yards of total offense. It's like a guy that's going from average 35 to now he's asked to play within the system. Like when Michael Jordan went from Coach Collins to the triangle, he didn't like it at first because he was so free versus being structured.
Yeah, and I mean the receivers too, right? But before the season, I was thinking like, are there almost too many mouths to feed, right? You know what I mean? Because these guys are putting up big numbers. Are they going to be all right with where they're at now?
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing about it is this: if you think about, us as fans, analysts, we all said, "Hey, man, we want to see a resemblance of a running game." Well,
they got it.
We're averaging, we're averaging 170 yards rushing. 2 of the 3 games, we went over 200 yards rushing. It's just that we want the best of both worlds. We want our cake and eat it too. But we would just like to see Brendan throw more touchdown passes, I think.
Yeah, right.
And the opportunities have been there.
And I think there's been some drops early too. And I feel like they've got the drop. The drops have been out of their system now. I'm hoping the rest of the season,
I agree with that. It's definitely been some drops. And Wicks spoiled us last year. I said this on my own platform that his spectacular catch rating would have been like a 95 on Madden. And we're so accustomed to him making spectacular catches that when he doesn't make the spectacular catch, we're like, oh, that's a drop. And that's because he's been so spectacular.
He spoiled us.
Last year. Yeah, man. So, and I told him that's what comes with the territory. His expectations are a little different than just a regular receiver.
Have you ever had to change offenses in the middle of a kind of with a team?
Yeah, my first 2 years here, I went from I was with Sparky Woods, and then Coach Tranquil came in, and they were a little different in their philosophy. And just the ask of what type of routes I was asked to do in Sparky Woods' offense versus Coach Tranquil working more I had to work more the middle of the field and work in between the linebackers with his scheme. So it took me some adjustment because that's a different monster. Yeah. Running drag routes and slants and things like that versus running go routes and deep corner routes with Coach Sparky Woods. So
it's just a time thing.
Take some time.
Yeah, it's just a time thing, I bet.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, BallHawk. Everyone check out BallHawk podcast. It's now on the Believe Network. I listen every week on the preview and on the recap, and I think it's one of the best podcasts in Virginia.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I definitely just want to get a fan some excellent old looks, and a lot of times we're so quick to criticize and second guess coaches versus just trying to illustrate what's taking place and what could be done to improve it. And I think when people are finished with my podcast episode, at least they can see the game differently and enjoy it that much more, because I may have opened up a window of viewership as far as how they view the game that they didn't think of before. And I just want folks to enjoy the game better, you know? So that's my goal each episode.
No, you're definitely doing it.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, BallHawk.
Thanks, brother.
All right, guys, that does it for episode 47. Thanks for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram at Virginia Game Day, or you can go to virginiagameday.com to subscribe to our newsletter. Go Hoos.